coming up. First Greece, now Italy. Sicily struggles with rising temperatures causing raging wildfires. A new weapon in the fight against cancer, promising results from a UK trial. And the women already winning. England on dreams coming true at the World Cup. Europe's wildfires, where is next? While the fires still rage in Rhodes, this is Sicily. Yet another holiday destination struggling to bring blazes under control. This is Dubrovnik, as Croatia, like Greece and Italy, sees the impact of such brutal temperatures. Here, tourists arrive back from Rhodes with tales of terror and complaints about tour operators.
I said to my mum, take Ella's hand and take Hannah's hand, and please don't let them go. Just get on that boat and get out of here.
We'll have the latest from the government on travel advice to the holiday hotspots. Also ahead, a global warning that human-induced climate change is a cause of global heat waves. Hope for cancer patients who don't respond to chemo. And the women already winning. England on dreams already coming true at the World Cup.
To step out and play for England, but especially at a tournament like this. So yeah, I pinch myself every single day that I get to step out and put the badge on.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Nina Hossain.
Good afternoon. Rhodes, Crete, Corfu, now Sicily and Dubrovnik. Some of Europe's most popular summer destinations now have something else in common: wildfires. The brutal temperatures are causing perfect conditions for fast-moving wind-fanned fires, damaging land and property, wildlife and livelihoods, forcing some to abandon their homes and turning long-awaited holidays into nightmare experiences. Rebecca Barry has the latest.
Escaping Sicily as it burns. This was the 3 a.m. drive for one British family through the flames as they tried to reach the airport. Southern Italy, the latest part of Europe, pushed to the limit in temperatures above 47 degrees. Deadly wildfires fanned by high winds, families forced to leave their homes and their holidays. But this was the scene at Palermo Airport, the flames getting dangerously close to the runway, the airport forced to close as firefighters fought to get it under control. While on the Greek island of Rhodes, the tinder-dry landscape continues to burn. For days, people have desperately fought any way they can to dampen the destruction. New wildfires breaking out every day. Since the weekend, thousands have been evacuated from Rhodes, one of Greece's most popular holiday destinations. The Coast Guard released this footage of people leaving the parasol-lined beaches on boats, the country's biggest evacuation effort in recent years.
At one point I said to my mum, take Ella's hand and take Hannah's hand, and please don't let them go. Just get on that boat and get out of here, because I wanted them to be safe.
Sarah Roberts was on holiday with her 2 children and elderly mother.
I can't describe to you how scared I was personally, but for my family, because having a 9-year-old boy, a 6-year-old girl and my 78-year-old mum with me, her breathing's not been fantastic for quite some time, so the thought of something like a fire coming and the smoke for me was the scariest thing, because I know it could overcome her quite quickly. I feel such an overwhelming gratitude to the people that helped us, but also sadness, because we left behind so many people distressed, so many people that needed help.
They left all their belongings, but are beyond relieved to be back home in Southampton. Their thoughts with those who have to live with this. Rebecca Barry, ITV News.
Well, parts of Rhodes are still the worst hit of the Greek islands, but overnight, parts of Corfu and Evia were also evacuated as the country grapples with a third successive heatwave. In Corfu yesterday, it was thought the fires were under control, but the winds on the island have changed all that. Our correspondent Emma Murphy is on Corfu and joins me now. What's the situation right now, Emma?
Well, we're in the north of the island at the moment, Nina, and as you can see behind me, they've closed this road. It's one of the roads up towards the mountain villages, and that's because the fire that they thought they had under control got whipped up by the winds earlier today, and as a result, it started to move closer to villages and some villas. So they've had to ask people to evacuate from those areas to nearby towns. They've closed the roads, and any vehicles that you see coming out are people leaving or emergency service workers, and any of the vehicles going in, as you'll probably see now, are taking in water and additional supplies to try and help the fire teams who are in there. There are a number of seats of fire, and that's what's making it difficult. We were further up the mountain this morning, and it was really striking how fast the winds got up and the level of alarm that was felt within those communities about what that meant. One old man who'd lived there all his life said that he hadn't experienced anything quite so vicious as this in all the years he'd been there. And it really is unpleasant for those poor people who are wondering whether or not their villages will get taken over. And of course, just look at the sky. It's the middle of the day. It's already grey, and there is ash coming down all the time. And there we go, another ambulance heading in. In terms of the situation for tourists, though, it's really important to make clear that this situation is not across this whole island. Down in the beach areas, in the main parts of Corfu, things are incredibly normal. You know, the biggest disruption most tourists will see is when the helicopters come in with those huge, huge buckets beneath them in order to scoop water out of the sea to bring it back to these mountainous areas. And when we travelled here yesterday, we were on a full flight. People weren't overly concerned, and that's certainly the message that's coming from tour operators. And what we're seeing with our own eyes on the ground where we're staying further down towards the town, you know, things are incredibly normal there. It's just further out in these more remote areas that they've got a really serious problem at the moment.
Let's hope those winds lessen very soon. Emma Murphy, thank you very much. The extreme heat, which is scorching parts of southern Europe and the United States, would not have happened if it had not have been for climate change caused by humans. That's the conclusion of a new scientific study which has made a rapid analysis of the intense record-breaking heat waves this summer. Our political correspondent Harry Horton now on the global warning.
From space, the spread of wildfires in Greece is clear to see. July has seen temperature records broken around the world. The big picture, scientists say, is that heat waves are getting hotter and wildfires more common because of human-caused climate change. One government minister says he agrees.
I do know that the way in which man treads on the planet does have an impact on the climate. I think it's very, very difficult for us to apportion a sort of percentage to it. But I do think that when you do have the temperatures that we've seen recently, that man's impact on climate change has to be accounted as part of that.
In America's Death Valley, temperatures this month soared above 40 degrees. A rapid analysis by scientists found the heat wave in North America was 2 degrees warmer because of human activity. And this extreme weather is no longer rare, expected once every 15 years in the US and once every 10 years in Europe. If global temperatures rise to 2 degrees above pre-industrial levels, heat waves will occur every 2 to 5 years.
Without human-induced climate change, these events would have been extremely rare. They would have been virtually impossible to happen. So because of our burning of fossil fuels, these events are happening now. And as long as we continue to burn fossil fuels, these events will become more and more frequent, more and more common, and also hotter.
Here in the UK, the Met Office says extreme heat above 40 degrees, like that experienced last summer, will become increasingly common. Scientists say time to act is running out, and the impact if we fail to is becoming clearer every year.
Harry, let's begin with policies and political parties here in the UK. Both Labour and the Conservatives are being criticised after accusations they seem to be backpedalling when it comes to the climate crisis.
Yeah, that's right. For the government, the criticism was targeted towards Rishi Sunak yesterday after he said that the UK's net zero targets should not unnecessarily give people more costs in their lives. Now, that was widely seen as opening the door to the government possibly rowing back on some of its green pledges, in particular ones that might impact consumers' wallets. Backbench Conservative MPs have for some time now been putting pressure on the government to scrap its commitment to ban the sale of petrol and diesel cars by 2030. Now, Michael Gove, who you heard in that report, who I spoke to this morning, he insists that the government remains committed to that target. For Labour, there's been criticism over the scaling back of a pledge to invest £28 billion a year in green jobs. Labour now say that that is an aim for their first term in government, if they get into government, rather than something they will do on day one. So, look, criticism of both parties as the two leaders try to strike this balance between tackling climate change but also trying not to do too much damage to the economy.
And returning to this issue of holidays and travel, what's the latest government advice for people this lunchtime?
Well, the official advice from the UK Foreign Office is to follow the guidance of the Greek emergency services. Crucially, the Foreign Office advice stops short of advising people not to travel to Greece. Now, some tour operators have made the decision to cancel their own holidays, and the view, it seems, from the government at the moment is that the commercial operators have got this in hand, and where appropriate and those holidays are cancelled, there doesn't need to be government intervention, and the private tour operators are able to get people back from Greece with their own capacity.
Harry Horton, thank you very much for the latest. Thank you. The influential Commons Culture, Media and Sport Committee has written to the Sun newspaper and the BBC following the allegations printed and broadcast about Hugh Edwards. The letter to the editor of The Sun asks her to explain what was done to verify the story about the journalist. I'm joined by our correspondent Rachel Younger. Rachel, The Sun back in the spotlight.
Yeah, that's right. The Sun has already faced some serious questions around its allegation that the BBC newsreader, later named as Hugh Edwards, had paid a 17-year-old for sexually explicit images. Now, had that happened, it could potentially have been a criminal offence, but it later transpired there was no evidence. The police found no evidence of that. The Sun coming under even more pressure when it emerged that the young person at the centre of these allegations had been approached about the story, had said that it was rubbish, but before it was published, and yet that denial had never been published by The Sun. So the chair of the Commons Committee has got in touch with Victoria Newton, the editor of The Sun, and says while it's not its job to question editorial decisions, it does want to know more about the fact-checking around that story and whether there are wider editorial lessons to be learnt. They're also asking what review or investigation is going on at The Sun into allegations around Dan Wootton. Now, he is a former Sun journalist who has been accused of offering colleagues money for sexual material. Now, he's denied any criminal wrongdoing, but he has admitted to errors in the past. So there are questions here about what was the Sun's culture in its workplace at the time, but also more questions about its reporting standards.
And the committee has also contacted the BBC.
Yeah, that's right. Very briefly, the chair of the committee has got in touch with the chair of that corporation, asking the broadcaster for further details around its wider review into its own processes after the way it reported on one of its leading broadcasters. They want to know when that will be published. So right now, two media organisations very much in the spotlight in Parliament.
Rachel Younger, thank you very much. Thank you. Still to come this lunchtime, the new cancer treatment and the new hope for patients. And England's women and the Pinchby World Cup moments. The NHS has once again been hit by strikes. This time, radiographers have walked out for 48 hours in England over pay. Members of the Society of Radiographers have rejected a 5% pay offer. The strike started this morning and affects 37 NHS trusts. This comes at a time when there's already a very long waiting list for radiography services. 1 million people are currently waiting for scans. Today's strike means X-rays, MRIs and ultrasounds can't be carried out. One NHS boss says overall 800,000 procedures and operations have been delayed since the wider NHS strike action began. Our Midlands reporter Pablo Taylor is at the City Hospital in Nottingham. Pablo, what's the impact of the strike where you are?
Well, Nina, radiographers perform a vital part of the NHS. These are the people that perform scans on patients, many of whom may just have broken bones, but some of whom have cancer. Now, there are only a few on the picket line outside Nottingham City Hospital today, but we're told that around 300 have walked out across the city, with 4,000 on strike nationally. Now, they've said that poor levels of pay are badly affecting recruitment.
I think pay is critical because it would resolve lots of the other problems that we've got. So, for instance, we have problems with recruiting radiographers, we have problems with retaining radiographers. In the old days, people used to laugh and they used to say, oh, we could go and work in Tesco for more. Now, it's not such a wide gap.
Well, this is the first ever walkout by radiographers in the UK. Their strike action has, as you say, led to thousands of routine scans being cancelled up and down the UK. What are they asking for? Well, they're asking for a 6.5% pay increase to match what was recently given to junior doctors. The government, meanwhile, says its offer of a 5% pay rise combined with one-off payments totalling at least £1,655 is reasonable and final.
Pablo Taylor, thank you. Next this lunchtime, the tumour shrinking drug that offers new hope to cancer patients who don't respond to existing treatments. A medical trial on people with ovarian cancer could lead the way for a completely new type of treatment for cancers that are resistant to chemotherapy. Charlie Frost has the details of the study and its promising results.
There's positive news about a new type of cancer treatment. It's called MOV-18 IgE. Its name may not be catchy, but early signs suggest it has the power to shrink tumours that haven't responded to other treatments. So what is it and how does it work? Well, it's a type of immunotherapy, a treatment which essentially wakes up the body's immune system and helps it fight disease. Antibodies bind to proteins which are found on the surface of some tumours. This helps the immune system find and attack the cells. All existing antibody drugs used to fight cancer belong to an antibody type called IgG, but IgE antibodies have not been tested in humans before. While the development of this treatment is still in the early stages, the initial results of the first human trial have been published, and it's looking positive. The drug shrank the tumour of a patient with ovarian cancer who had not responded to conventional therapy. Plus, it was well tolerated in almost all patients, meaning the side effects weren't too serious. Well, what does this mean? Well, the lead author on the study, Professor James Spicer, said the results paved the way to development of an entirely new class of anti-cancer drug for people with chemotherapy-resistant cancers. So it means there could be more treatment options for people with cancer in the future. But researchers admit there's still lots of work to do before it can be rolled out. The next step will be to test a much bigger group of patients.
Charlie Frost there. The number of families in temporary accommodation in England have reached record highs. Government figures released today show 104,000 households are living in government-funded B&Bs, hostels and hotels, and more than 131,000 children did not have a permanent place to call home. The telecoms giant Virgin Media O2 is to cut up to 2,000 jobs by the end of the year. The move, which will affect around 12% of its workforce, follows wider cutbacks in the industry. Both BT and Vodafone significantly reduced the size of their workforces. And some of the UK's biggest banks have been accused of letting down nearly 170,000 customers. The Competition and Markets Authority says HSBC, Nationwide and TSB banks have failed to provide payment transaction histories It says the failings are not acceptable and have written to the banks in question. Finally, this lunchtime, England's next challenge in the World Cup is a clash against Denmark on Friday. Before that, some of the squad have talked about the warm welcome they've had in Australia and how playing in an England shirt is a real pinch-yourself moment. Sally Biddulph on the women, already winning.
A warm Australian welcome for the England team as they switch to a training ground much closer to their base camp hotel in New South Wales.
It's amazing. I think you can see from the amount of people here and the welcome we've got, I think we honestly feel like it's a home from home and we can't be more grateful for the support.
2,500 fans eagerly watched England's last open training session before their next qualifier on Friday.
World Cup lift-off for the Lionesses.
The Lionesses happily banked 3 points from their 1-0 win against Haiti on Saturday, but are all too aware of the tough start and narrow victory from a penalty. The focus now, though, is Denmark.
Haiti were a fantastic side. Denmark are going to bring something completely different. So, yeah, we're looking at them. We know what they're going to bring, and we're working hard in training to make sure that we can counteract on their weaknesses.
England win.
Wiegman's girls have high hopes in this competition, buoyed by victory at the Euros. But they take nothing for granted, all of them living their childhood dream.
I read messages from home and all my friends and family who've been on the journey with me as well, saying how proud they are. It's definitely a pinch me moment. They know how much it means to me to step out and play for England, but especially at a tournament like this. So, yeah, I pinch myself every single day that I get to step out and put the badge on.
Autographs for now before heads down for Denmark in Sydney on Friday. Then to Adelaide to take on China on Tuesday to complete their group stage. Our Lionesses are ready to roar. Sally Biddulph, ITV News.
Just before we go, there were 2 surprise new arrivals at Derriford Hospital in Plymouth this week. Here they are. The deer were filmed trotting along a hallway inside what's reported to be the maternity ward. They'd apparently come in through a back door and were inside the building for a few minutes. Mary's here at 6:30 from me and the Lunchtime team. Bye-bye.
Everywhere will be lovely and warm today. You might even be tempted to go for a dip. Heinz Seriously Good Mayonnaise sponsors ITV National Weather.
Hello there, good afternoon to you. Sunny spells and showers best sums up our weather as we head through today. Most of those showers sitting across Scotland, northern and eastern parts of England. We could see 1 or 2 isolated thunderstorms in those showers as well, but come further west, fewer showers. In fact, most places here will be dry. Our temperatures a degree or so warmer than yesterday, but still below average for this time of year. So as we head through the course of this evening and night, those showers will start to ease, clearing skies overall, although across northern parts of England here we'll keep cloudy conditions and further showers for a time. Under those clear skies, temperatures will drop away. It will be a cool night compared to previous nights. So heading through tomorrow, many of us start off dry with some sunshine. There'll be a couple of showers through Scotland, northern parts of England. Out towards the west, rain building. It will turn wet and windy for all as we head through the course of the day. Bye-bye for now.
Heinz Seriously Good Mayonnaise sponsors ITV National Weather.